Something that has always perplexed me was the relationship between Miquella and Mohg. As we know, both are offspring of Marika, but Mohg is a child of Godfrey, the first Elden Lord, which makes them only half-brothers. Miquella is what's known as an Empyrean and the son of Radagon of the Golden Order. Something that they share in common is that they are both a twin, Mohg being Morgott's twin brother and Malenia being Miquella's twin sister. Both sets of twins seem to bear their own unique curses. Mohg and Morgott are omens, children who grow to have giant statures and many twisted horns adorning their bodies and faces. In the lands between, Omen babies often have their horns excised, but because the twins were born into the royal family, they are instead hidden away underground to live in secret forever. The regal Omen bear notes this. Omen babies born of royalty do not have their horns excised, but instead are kept underground, unbeknownst to anyone, imprisoned for eternity. If you want to know more about this topic, check out my previous Omen video linked up above. Malenia and Miquella were also born cursed. Malenia with the aggressive scarlet rot plaguing her body, and Miquella with the inability to grow or age. The Remembrance of the Rock Goddess explains, one was cursed with eternal childhood, and the other harbored rot within. Miquella's eternal youth could be seen by some as a blessing, but unfortunately for him, it seems that he did not see it this way. Miquella's power and strength would forever be stunted by his childlike body, and while his mind aged, he physically never would. His exact motivation is never clearly stated, so we can only make assumptions, but regardless, Miquella planned to rid himself and his sister of their curses. Quote, and yet the young Miquella abandoned fundamentalism, for it could do nothing to treat Malenia's accursed rot. This was the beginning of unalloyed gold. Mohg, on the other hand, would do the opposite. Instead of seeking to rid himself of his accursed blood, he would come to fully embrace it, turning it into his main source of power. If you are enjoying this video so far, please consider liking it down below and subscribing to the channel for more lore and video game related content. After the Elden Ring was shattered by Queen Marika, the Golden Order's power weakened, and it is then that we can conclude Mohg and Morgott broke their respective shackles. Mohg's shackle states, shackles were used to bind the accursed people called the Omen, and these ones were made to keep a particular Omen under strictest confinement. Though faint, the shackles still retain vestiges of power, enough to trap the once-bound Mohg on Earth, if only for a short time. After escaping their confinement, the Omen twins would part ways, Morgott ascending above ground to fight in the War of the Shattering under his alias Margit, and Mohg would journey further down into the depths of the lands between. There he found an outer god, known as the Formless Mother. Their meeting is described in the blood incantation called Blood Boon, stating, the Mother of Truth craves wounds. When Mohg stood before her, deep underground, his accursed blood erupted with fire, and besotted with the defilement that he was born into. This would be the start of the Mohgwyn Dynasty. Mohg proclaimed himself the Lord of Blood, and was a shard-bearer just like his brother Morgott. He planned a dynasty built on the power of accursed blood, described by his weapon, the Mohgwyn Sacred Spear. Trident of Mohg, Lord of Blood, a sacred spear that will come to symbolize his dynasty. As well as serving as a weapon, it is an instrument of communion with an outer god who bestows power upon accursed blood. His dynasty also required one more thing, the young Empyrean himself, Miquella. But why? Miquella had left the capital at this point, and created unalloyed gold to help stave off the progression of his sister's scarlet rot. The unalloyed gold needle is only one example, an intricately crafted needle of unalloyed gold, snapped in half, a ritual implement crafted to ward away the meddling of outer gods. It is thought capable of forestalling the incurable rotting sickness. And indeed, as seen through Millicent's questline, the needle does in fact stop the scarlet rot from killing her. This isn't the only thing Miquella used unalloyed gold for. Another curious item is the Bewitching Branch, which is a tree branch blessed with an incantation of unalloyed gold. the Empyrean Miquella is loved by many people. Indeed, he has learned very well how to compel such affection. Miquella seems to have garnered the affection and complete devotion of many people to an almost eerie extreme, but we'll come back to this thought later. A gorgeous detail, in my opinion, is the weaved unalloyed gold in Malenia's skin we see in the cutscene right before her boss battle. This clearly depicts the level of desperation they were at in saving Malenia from being completely consumed by the rot. Unfortunately for her though, the unalloyed gold could only keep the rot at bay. It could not cure her of it completely. Here we finally get the origin of the Haligtree. Miquella had a plan to grow a new Erd-tree, and through it, he would transcend to godhood, curing himself of his eternal youth, and finally become powerful enough to eradicate the meddling of an outer god. But first, Miquella needed to figure out how to grow such a magnificent tree. A sacramental bud is a crafting item found throughout the lands between. Its description states, an immature bud containing fresh blood, believed to originate long ago from a strain of buds cultivated with youthful, sacramental blood. The image depicted is a simple twig with a red bud forming on it. These are used to craft the bewitching branches I mentioned before, as well as preserving boluses, which are used to alleviate scarlet rot buildup and cure rot ailment. Both of these items tie back to Miquella in some way. It could be concluded then that these buds were created by Miquella, using his own youthful blood to cultivate them. In fact, this isn't the last time we hear about Miquella utilizing his blood in his endeavors. The Haligtree Knight's armor tells us, though watered with Miquella's own blood since a sapling, the Haligtree ultimately failed to grow into an Erd-tree. It's become increasingly apparent that Miquella utilized the power of his blood with blood magic. The Haligtree is decorated with unalloyed gold, the seemingly main focus of Miquella and his legacy. Its knights, soldiers, and even his sister's armor are all made of unalloyed gold, and their loyalty is fierce and unwavering, the intensity of it described by the Haligtree soldier ashes. Spirits of common soldiers who carry the sacred light. When weakened, they explode to deliver a last-ditch attack. This was the bitter revelation discovered by the desperate soldiers who awaited the return of their lord to the rotted Haligtree. May the flash of our deaths guide Miquella's return. I want to point out something really quick that's important to my theory. When we hear of the loyalty of Malenia's clean rot knights, it's easy to believe that their fealty was genuine because of her skills in battle and success in war, in combination with her bloodline. With Miquella, however, it becomes a little more questionable as to why there were so many willing to fight, protect, and die for him and his cause. Not to mention the followers of St.Trina, who is also Miquella. The word Halig actually means holy, and much of the words surrounding Miquella are associated with holiness and worship. Ordina liturgical town, for example, ordain is often used to describe a priest or minister who may confer holy orders to the common folk, and liturgical refers to the act of public worship. This has led me to believe that the people surrounding Miquella already considered him to be a god and worshipped him as such. But why? From this point on, this is total speculation, but I believe this all can be traced back to the bewitching branch. Miquella's hidden power was the ability to bewitch the minds of others. He garnered so much love and adoration in a seemingly effortless way, and because of his followers' fierce faithfulness, was put on a godlike pedestal. I thought about it this way. The bewitching branch is crafted using a twig with a bud forming from Miquella's blood, and a single prick of this item will turn your enemies into allies who will fight alongside you and even die for you. Now imagine what a tree like the Haligtree, watered with Miquella's blood, could do. The sheer magnitude of power Miquella's blood contains is immeasurable, and would be incredibly useful to a god who bestows power upon accursed blood. And as we know, the Mother of Truth craves wounds. What if by using his accursed blood to do blood magic, Miquella attracted the attention of the Formless Mother. The outer gods in Elden Ring all seem to have a pattern. They are attracted to Empyreans and seemingly choose one to potentially ascend into godhood. Miquella could be no different, except instead of being chosen by the greater will like his mother was, he was chosen by the Formless Mother. But what about the strange relationship between him and Mohg? Well, this gets a little trickier and requires a bit more imagination. If the Formless Mother requested Mohg to bring her Miquella, they would have had to wait for the perfect circumstances to achieve this. Melania, Blade of Miquella, would need to be separated from her brother's side, and this is exactly what happened. She journeyed to Caelid where General Radahn and her fought, giving Mohg the perfect opportunity to kidnap Miquella. Miquella also at this point had cocooned himself into the roots of the Haligtree to complete his transformation. But when we arrive at the Haligtree, Miquella is indeed nowhere to be found. Mohg kidnapped the young cocoon Empyrean and proclaimed himself to be the consort of Miquella, possibly due to Miquella's bewitching powers, and began to try and raise him into godhood, as described by the remembrance of the Bloodlord. Wishing to raise Miquella to full godhood, Mohg wished to become his consort, taking the role of monarch. But no matter how much of his bloody bedchamber he tried to share, he received no response from the young Empyrean. How much of this was Mohg's own design, or did his god, the Mother of Truth, influence him? I believe the Formless Mother may have wanted Miquella due to his powerful cursed blood. One day he will awaken from his rest, but for now he remains deep underground, drenched in blood, and asleep. It may be that once he does emerge from his cocoon, Miquella will be the god of accursed blood. But for now, we'll never know. As Sir Gideon Ofnir says, if he continues his slumber within the cocoon, all will be well. But perhaps it would be safer to destroy it. Miquella is the one thing that remains a mystery to me. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like down below. Subscribe to my channel if you're interested in these videos and you want to see more from me, and I will talk to you all in the next one. Bye!